everyone, this is Carla. I am back this week. I missed you all so very much. Well, today's topic is about Lizzo and the unhealthy criticisms of this artist. Well, we have a lot to talk about, so before I begin, if you are new here, welcome, and there's going to be a link to my channel intro on the screen. And if you are a subscriber or just a frequent viewer, welcome, glad to have you. Please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Well, this is a jam-packed video with a lot to go over, so let's just get straight into it in 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. So if you haven't heard of this artist already, or you just needed a refresher on this genius musician, Lizzo is an American singer, songwriter, and also flutist, meaning an artist that plays the instrument, the flute. And as you can see, this artist is a beautiful woman and a fuller sized woman. She is definitely not the standard small framed individual, but still beautiful in her own right. And that's something I would like to truly emphasize, is that we are all beautiful in our own rights. So with that out of the way, and we're all feeling wonderful and beautiful and confident within ourselves, let's also talk about some of the criticisms of this artist. And most of it is in regards to her weight, as you really can't say it's in her talent, meaning her music, because she recently just won a bunch of awards at the VMAs, and she's won other awards as well. So just wanted to give a little, praise and definitely acknowledge that fact. And that's not something that anyone can take away from her. So anyway, this woman has the award. She has a clothing line coming out and is trying to also be more inclusive in terms of background dancers and other behind the scenes individuals, or at least behind her, that represent her. And that's a truly huge market, is the fuller figured plus size industry. Lots of people that are needing clothing, and let's say an influencer or someone to look up to kind of bring these public body types to light. So that's something to be very appreciative, and just applaud this woman for being true to her authentic self. Now, let's go back to some of the criticisms. As I mentioned, many have criticized her weight in a very brutal manner, just using names, calling her fat or obese. But what I really would like to stop and talk about are the criticisms, truly, I'm going to say the insults that are hurled at this woman, but the ones that are followed behind a concern about her health. And there's going to be a few examples on the screen in terms of, again, criticisms of her weight, followed by how unhealthy it is to be that weight. And I just truly wish that these criticisms were honestly two separate comments, because combining them into one, the concern about the weight, it does kind of cushion the blow to some of the words being used, like fat or obese or ugly, or the list can go on and on and on. So by combining the two, maybe whomever's writing these comments, they really are concerned about someone's weight, and that's definitely understandable. But it does, again, cushion the blow and seemingly makes it so that your comment is not as hurtful, and that's good. But I guess my question would be to you or whomever wants to say these things are, what is your medical degree, or how long have you worked in the medical industry to be commenting about people's health? Unless you work or you are this person's doctor or nurse, you're not really qualified to say what is healthy and what is unhealthy. And what I also would like to address is the fact that many people, because I used to work in healthcare, so I understand. Many people just think as long as you look a certain way, let's say healthy or thin on the outside, that means that you have no problems on the inside, and that's just not the case. I do want to say that being at an ideal weight minimizes or reduces the risks of getting certain chronic conditions or diseases like high blood pressure or hypertension or diabetes or even high cholesterol or even cancer. Having a lower weight reduces the risk, but it does not mean that you will not get those conditions or diseases. Some things are just simply hereditary, almost like how you may have inherited your mother's eyes or your father's nose. You can inherit what's going on the inside or be carriers as well. I'm not a geneticist, but again, I do have health training in my background, so I can speak to these facts. And we saw it. We saw it so often where a person would just not want to take medications or not follow up with a doctor because they either felt good and didn't need it, or they looked good or what was deemed good to them and because they didn't feel it. So this is truly just one of those public service announcements, is to get your yearly checkups and listen to what your doctors are and healthcare providers and professionals are saying and suggesting that you do. So yeah, I'd also just like to give these examples of, most recently, Jane Fonda has come out and admitted she has a type of cancer, treatable cancer, thank God, but she was diagnosed with cancer. But looking at Jane Fonda, would you think she had problems? No, she's a beautiful, mature woman. Let's look at Lance Armstrong. At the height of his career, found out he had cancer. Or Halle Berry has diabetes. All these people are managing it, but again, looking at them from the outside, you would never think that they would have any of these issues. So again, it's just driving that point home that just because you look a certain way on the outside, it doesn't mean that it will match to perfection or necessarily health on the inside. But healthy diets and moderate exercise is always recommended to everyone, Lizzo included, and she has shown herself doing physical activity. So yeah. So just please, ladies and gentlemen, take that into consideration and, stop trying to be someone's healthcare provider. Or if you are a healthcare provider, make sure you put those qualifications behind your comments. And please check out my video on this whole Oscar slapgate. I feel like many of the points I'm making in terms of words and watching words and being cautious, I've addressed in that video, breaking down what was the issue with Chris Rock's joke about Jada Pinkett Smith. And while we're on the subject of comedy, I'd just like to bring up some of these comments are funny, they're comical. I can't take that away from any comedian or someone trying to be funny. A punchline is a punchline, we get it, and oftentimes comedians have to walk that thin line of offensive and inoffensive and comedy. Like, those lines are always pushed. Completely understand and accept that. It's, again, how some of the genius comedians have done their thing and had those good laughs of their career. I'm certainly not trying to take any money out of anybody's pocket or food off of anybody's table and telling someone not to be a comedian, not to push those boundaries or anything like that. No, please do it. But there's a class and a tact and a manner with which to do it so that you're not being, I'm going to say, so brutally honest. T.D. Jakes recently talked about this. The mega pastor T.D. Jakes talked about the downfall of brutal honesty, and even how, if you're religious at all, even Jesus himself, that dealt with humans on a daily basis while it was on earth, was never brutal in his honesty or his encouragement for people or Gentiles or people to seek him and seek God. He was honest in encouraging people to live a better path, but he was never brutally honest. And really one of the points of the message was, does the person deserve a brutal response? Because unfortunately people can misconstrue the brutality or get caught in the brutality of the comment, that what the ultimate message of encouragement or in some instances savior is, it's lost in the message, in the delivery of that brutal message. And I would ask you, ladies and gentlemen, in these comments that are so brutal, calling her fat and comparing her to a poo-poo emoji, like, that's brutal. What does she do to deserve that? What does she do to you to deserve it? And if before you click and type anything on your screen talking about she's offensive to your eyes, you have choices not to look. You have choices not to support this artist. On many of these platforms, you can choose, especially YouTube, you can choose that you are not interested in certain videos or images. Same thing for many of the social media outlets. You can, or even just we always say, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Do that to what you find favorable. It actually helps. But don't literally take a poo on someone just because you don't like the way they look. Or if you do want to be that brutal, then just own it and admit it. Admit what you don't like, and don't try to buffer it with you're concerned about someone's health. Be adult, be man or woman enough to be as brutal as you want to be, but be prepared to take the consequences. Even cancel culture that we have nowadays, even take the risk of being canceled because of it. We've had a long history of those being oppressed, or those that are not considered ideal people, skin colors, hair colors, ethnicities. Long history, even sexual orientation. Long history of making fun of these people. But now we're in a different era, in an era where we watch our words, where we have to be mindful of what we say and how we say it, because there are consequences to living in this, free speech society. It's free speech, but that doesn't mean it's without consequences. And while I'm on the topic of this new era, we're in this new era of visibility and inclusion. Even if you don't like this artist or if you don't identify with her melanin or her shape or anything, but allow the people that do identify with this person to have someone to relate to. Relatability is so important, especially as a woman, especially as a woman of color. It's important to have those examples because without it, it can lead to body dysmorphia. And let me park right here and give some examples. So, for a very long time in this country, the ideal standard of beauty was, let's say, a woman with fair skin and light hair. That was who makeup was marketed to, it was who clothing was marketed to. In the minority communities, when you don't look like that, you don't have someone to look up to in that regard, it always creates a body dysmorphia because you will never be fully satisfied with what you're seeing in the mirror because it's not going to reflect what you're looking at or what you're buying from. And that's why I'm so happy that we have artists of different shapes and sizes and skin complexions, hair textures, all the gamut. We have those representations. Example like Rihanna with her Fenty makeup collection. Even Kylie Cosmetics has a little bit of inclusion as well. We have different clothing brands, and just mass media has people of color in it and different body types and celebrating different sexual orientations or gender identities. We have more of that exposure, and honestly, we need more of it, but I'm happy with what we have. And what I mean by needing more of it, I give the example of being a person with a disability. We need to see more of that as well. Again, what do you think it's like for a person that's been, let's say, a wheelchair user could always see someone standing up, modeling clothing, or even in advertisements, having a good time? Without those examples, it's like you wonder, is that reality? Because unfortunately, we are such a visual society. It's like, we definitely do compare ourselves, and it's been definitely studied and proven. This is how advertisers have done their magic behind the scenes. It's these advertisements through media and radio, and the gamut goes on and on and on. It's like we want to be with what we see. I know family is important, and I have a wonderful family that have encouraged me, and I know many other people have families that encourage them, and it's not all about media and what we see. It's not, but we have to admit that mass media, Hollywood, the entertainment industry, modeling industry, what we see at hand is the biggest influencer at all. I know many people of you may not agree, but you have to admit, at least want to admit, that it is an influence, one of the biggest influencers. Not the only one, but a major one, especially the youth. And we are almost done, I promise you. And I just would like to end this with one question. Do we have to destroy someone's mental health in terms of criticizing and using your words, harsh words? Must we destroy the mental health to elicit a response to try to get someone to improve their physical health? Because mental health and physical health they feed off of each other, but they're different, and we have to address those. So let's try to be encouraging to one another, love one another, support one another, and address some of the issues at hand, and some of the the biases, and some of the other unhealthy habits that people have that we don't really talk about, like smoking. Someone could look great on the outside, but if they're smoking, you don't see what's going on the inside, but it's unhealthy. Let's start commenting about those behaviors. Plenty of celebrities are snapped in paparazzi shots, indulging in very unhealthy behaviors. I'd like to see more of the criticisms or the unhealthy critiques of those people because they deserve just as much attention because those behaviors are just as unhealthy if that's the bandwagon you'd like to ride on. All right. And please, again, let's be kind to each other, support one another. We never know what's behind the scenes going on in someone's body. A woman's body is very complex with hormones and age and the aging populations and different even fertility statuses. You may not know someone had a miscarriage, but by the size of them, they may have had one, but you may not know. So again, just be careful on what you say and how you say it. Not everyone that's carrying a child only gains in the stomach. Some people gain all over, especially if they're on fertility treatments. Okay. Well, just to summarize everything, please just be kind to each other and appreciate someone for what they're trying to do. This person is being an artist and being an influencer to those that want to identify with that. All right. We come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for your attention and your time. I appreciate you so very much. Please be kind in the comments. Please do comment, share, like, and subscribe. Carpe diem the best way you can, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.